Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech. This week, we're watching a whole cascade of digital dominoes fall. We're going to connect the dots from a huge hardware flaw hitting millions of devices all the way to a massive, honest-to-goodness espionage farm discovered in New York City. Okay, let's get right into it.
So here's what's on the docket today. We're kicking things off with a major zero-day bug in Cisco devices. Then we're jumping over to a pretty wild legal fight brewing for GitHub down in Australia. After that, we'll uncover that massive spy operation I mentioned, and then a surprisingly simple but very sneaky supply chain attack. And finally, we'll tie it all together.
All right, first up, Cisco just dropped news of a brand new zero-day vulnerability. And this one is a big deal. We're talking about something that could put an estimated 2 million network devices at risk. And you know, this isn't some tiny minor bug. This thing hits the very core of how these devices actually work.
So how bad is it really? Well, when we look at the CVSS score, which is basically the Richter scale for cybersecurity flaws, this one clocks in at a 7.7 out of 10. Now, anything over 7 is considered high severity. That means this is a serious threat that you absolutely need to pay attention to, like right now.
The bug itself, officially known as CVE 2025-20352, is in the SNMP subsystem. That's just the protocol networks use to manage and monitor all the devices on them. The specific problem is a stack overflow, which is a classic kind of attack. It's almost like an attacker is sending way too much mail to a PO box until it bursts, letting them either crash the system or, even worse, slip their own instructions inside.
Now, here's where it gets really scary. The damage an attacker can do totally depends on their access level. So someone with low privileges, no special access, can still crash the device and knock it offline. That's bad. But an attacker who already has high-level privileges, they can run any code they want as the root user. And that means they have complete and total control of a system. Game over.
The good news is Cisco has already pushed out software updates to fix this. But here's the catch. There are no workarounds, none. So the message from them is loud and clear. If you run this software, you need to patch your devices immediately. No excuses. All right, let's switch gears. For our next story, we're looking at how a new law in Australia, one designed to protect kids online, could have some massive and probably completely unintended consequences for the entire world of software development.
And really, it all boils down to this one kind of weird question. Australia's eSafety Commission is looking into platforms that could be harmful to children, and somehow GitHub, the world's biggest home for software code, has ended up on their radar. So you're probably wondering, why on earth is GitHub in this conversation? Well, when you look at the Commission's checklist, you can kind of start to see their logic. Does it enable social interaction? Yeah, through comments and code reviews. Can users post material? Absolutely. Is it available in Australia? Yep. Now, the Commission says not everyone on this initial list will face penalties, but just having this conversation could totally redefine what we even think of as social media.
Okay, from regulatory threats, we are pivoting hard to physical ones. And this next story sounds like it's straight out of a spy movie. This week, the U.S. Secret Service announced they found a massive, hidden device farm right in New York City. A setup so powerful it could have disrupted the city's entire cell network.
So get this, in a bunch of different locations, right near the UN General Assembly, agents uncovered 300 of what are called SIM servers. These are incredibly powerful machines built to manage thousands and thousands of SIM cards all at once, basically making them look like a whole army of individual cell phones. And those 300 servers, they were wired up to this, over 100,000 individual SIM cards. I mean, the scale here is just mind-blowing. This is not some small-time scam. This is industrial-grade, nation-state-level infrastructure built for a very specific and very scary purpose. So, what could you do with a setup like this? Well, the capabilities are pretty terrifying. You could disable local cell towers, launch massive denial-of-service attacks, and give your agents a way to communicate anonymously and securely. Investigators believe it's the work of another country, and that it has already been used to make threats against U.S. government officials. For our final story, we're going to zoom all the way in. We're going from a massive physical operation down to a tiny, almost invisible change in a single piece of software that perfectly shows just how dangerous supply chain attacks can be.
Security researchers found a malicious package lurking in the NPM repository, which is a huge library where developers share code. And the attack was just shockingly simple. All the attacker did was add one single line of code
that secretly blind carbon copied or BCC'd themselves on every single email that was sent using this software. A one-line change, that's it.
So here's exactly how they pulled it off. First, the attacker just copied a legitimate, trusted piece of software. Second, they slipped in that one malicious line of code. And third, they just published it right back to the public library using the exact same name. So any developer looking for that tool could easily grab the poisoned version by mistake.
And you know what? A lot of them did. By the time it was caught, this malicious package was being downloaded about 1,500 times every single week. That's thousands of developers who are potentially installing a backdoor that just forwarded all of their app's private emails straight to an attacker's inbox.
Okay, so let's just take a step back for a second. We've looked at 4 really different stories today. A deep hardware flaw, a regulatory mess, a physical spy ring, and a super sneaky software attack. So let's pull it all together and see what the big picture looks like. When you lay it all out like this, a really clear picture starts to form, right? The modern threat landscape is just dangerously diverse. The Cisco flaw is proof that the very hardware our internet is built on is vulnerable and needs our constant attention. The GitHub story shows how even good intentions can create totally new risks. That SIM farm is a huge reminder that cyber attacks often rely on real-world physical stuff. And the NPM package? It just proves that the simplest attacks can sometimes be the most effective.
Each of these stories is chipping away at a different part of our digital security. And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. As all these different kinds of threats, physical, software, even legal threats start to blend together, what becomes the new weakest link? Where should we really be focusing all of our attention? That's our roundup for this week. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.